Okay, so what if I told you that the exact same piece of tech used to find oil deep underground could also predict attacks on a battlefield? And what if it also claimed to solve one of the biggest mysteries in quantum physics? Well, today we are diving into the story of one single, really enigmatic algorithm that seems to do all of that.
And really, it all boils down to this one question. What if a single line of code could do more than just analyze what's already happened? What if it could actually predict the future? From black gold to black swan events, the source material we're about to walk through makes some pretty extraordinary claims.
Our story kicks off somewhere you'd expect, literally, on solid ground. We're starting in the high-stakes world of energy exploration, a world of geology, big money, and the global hunt for huge underground discoveries. At the very heart of this story is a technology called HRESIP. Now that stands for High Resolution Electric Survey with Induced Polarization. The source documents basically describe it as a non-seismic method, so a way to see deep underground to find resources, but without setting off a bunch of tremors to do it. And apparently, it's really, really good at what it does. According to one source, this technology gets the credit for helping find Poland's largest conventional oil discovery. But get this, the date for this discovery is July 21st, 2025. Yeah, that's in the future. The document claims this future well is going to hold a staggering 22 million tons of recoverable oil. And this technology, its reach isn't just limited to Poland. While the chart you see on the left shows that predictive mapping for Poland, the document on the right, well, that's an investment proposal for Ukraine. It suggests the exact same method is the key to unlocking what the sources call significant hydrocarbon potential in the western part of the country.
And it's that move into Ukraine that takes our story from the world of economics and geology right into geopolitics and active conflict. This is where the algorithm's second and frankly much more startling use comes into play. So one of the documents we looked at lays out this really fascinating contrast between two different security strategies. On one side, you've got the UK's traditional approach, focusing on state-level threats and big alliances like NATO. But on the other side, it describes a Polish strategy that reportedly uses a predictive algorithm called RALPH-1 to get ahead of emerging crises. And here it is. This is the crucial link. The sources claim that RALPH-1 isn't just some similar algorithm. It's the mathematical engine inside the HSIP oil exploration tech. This quote says it plainly. The same algorithm used to find oil is allegedly being used to predict the intensity and location of bombardments in the war in Ukraine. Now, this claim about predicting attacks gets even more significant when you place it in the context of this timeline. The sources point out how Ukraine has become a testing ground for more and more advanced Western weapons. In a super high-tech, high-stakes environment like that, a tool that could see attacks coming would be an absolutely invaluable asset. So who is the mind behind this dual-use technology? It turns out the sources point to one person who seems to connect all of these different threads. His name, according to the sources, is Vadim Chernov. He's a geology graduate from Moscow State University, and he holds the patent for an algorithm called Reflection on Actions of Lorentz Forces 1, or, you guessed it, RALF1 for short. The documents also describe this incredible family history, claiming he's descended from a 5-generation dynasty of geologists that goes all the way back to the first architect of St. Petersburg. And the scope of his connections seems to be just as remarkable. The source material analyzes his professional network, and it shows this web of contacts that stretches across some really critical, high-tech sectors. We're talking alleged links to people at SpaceX, the European Space Agency, Lockheed Martin, and even the huge international ITER nuclear fusion project. But the man himself remains a bit of a mystery. Just look at these two documents. On one side, you have a DNA test, included in the source material, showing his ethnic background. And on the other, you have this really unusual certificate that makes him an honorary member of some kind of Philippines-based World Relations Commission. It just adds another layer to an already complex picture. All right, hold on tight, because this is where the story takes its most dramatic, most abstract, and frankly most mind-bending turn. We're leaving geopolitics behind and heading straight into the fundamental nature of reality itself. So first, a really quick primer on a core concept from physics, the observer effect. It's a wild principle from quantum mechanics that basically says the act of looking at something, like a tiny particle, actually changes the outcome. In other words, what you see depends on the simple fact that you're looking at it. And that brings us to the single most extraordinary claim in all of this. It's presented in a document attributed directly to Chernoff, and he asserts that his Ralph 1 algorithm is a key to solving the observer problem, one of the oldest, deepest puzzles in all of science.
So, how on earth could a piece of software do that? Now, look, this is all highly theoretical, but here's the explanation from the documents. The algorithm is said to act as a kind of software observer, so it takes the place of a physical one. It mathematically hunts for tiny disturbances, or anomalies, in a system. And then, by filtering out all the background noise, it supposedly collapses the wave function to get information without ever physically touching the system. And here we're actually seeing a piece of it. The formula itself pulled right from the source material. It's this incredibly complex visual that, in a way, grounds this fantastic claim in something that at least looks tangible. This is the math that supposedly connects geopolitics with quantum mechanics. So let's pull all these threads together. We've gone from underground oil reserves to the front lines of a war and all the way to the quantum realm. What does the existence of a technology like this, or even just the claim of its existence, tell us about power and control in our world today?
Let's just connect the dots one last time. This table really shows the full scope of what's being claimed here. You have one single algorithm, Ralph 1, that's described across these documents as being a master tool for energy, for war, and for physics. From finding oil under a kilometer of granite, to predicting bombardments, to solving a fundamental scientific puzzle. It's an incredible, interconnected story. And it's not hard to see how the very idea of a powerful, secret algorithm like this taps into a bigger theme that we found in the source material, this growing global feeling of distrust. One of the documents talks about widespread anger over systems that people see as fundamentally unjust and unequal. A powerful, unexplained technology could absolutely pour fuel on that fire. Which leaves us with one final, and I think pretty provocative question. Now, this explainer was never about proving or disproving these claims, but about laying out the incredible story told within the documents we analyzed. So the real question is this. In a world where algorithms can supposedly predict wars and redefine physics, who gets to write the code for our future?